Great, man. Been a little busy, just running around, man, trying to take care of business, get things prepared for this Friday. And then this is my week with my girls, and so I have joint custody of my two youngest girls, and so this is my week with them, and so daddy duty along with take care of business, man.
That's
So yeah,
fun.
but I'm blessed, man. I'm blessed. How about yourself?
It was good. We were moving books around today. We were shifting, getting ready for the big opening. So I see on our little eyeball up there in the left-hand corner, you can't see it, but we have people logging on now. So gonna go ahead and say, hey to everybody. This is Michael McCullough, Mac McCullough, whatever you want to call me. Broadcasting here from the Burley Corners studio of Willard Library. And I got my special guest today, Damon Brown of Rise. How you doing, Damon?
Hello, everyone. Yep, I'm good, Mike.
Yep. We had a few technical difficulties to get started there, but hey, we got our first viewer saying, "Hey, how about that?" So that one's all the way from Idaho Falls. Yeah. So Damon, it's great to have you on. Damon and we got to know each other about a year ago, right?
Yeah, about a year ago, a little over a year ago. Yeah, man, it's just been a great relationship, man. Since then, man. I think the first thing we did was the summit with you and Kathy, Tim and myself, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Hey, Boyd. Hey, Stephanie, how you guys doing?
So yeah, we've been knowing each other for about a year now, and I just thought it would be great to have you on. You guys are doing some great work. Damon Brown, I introduced you on my Facebook post as the co-founder of Rise.
Yes.
And why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about Rise and all the great work you've been doing in the Washington Heights neighborhood throughout this pandemic.
Yep. Thanks, man. So, Rise Corp, Reintegration to Support and Empower. We started about 3 years ago, going on 4. Myself and Tim Reese, co-founder. Rise team consists of a bunch of great folks. People that I've grew up with. Individuals we've met along the way, and so what we do is we're a grassroots organization that targets youth, families, individuals that's been through traumatic situations in their life, adverse childhood experiences.
Yeah.
We've done some work over in the Calhoun County Juvenile Home with youth. I've actually done a cognitive behavioral therapy program over there called MRT.
Yeah.
We had about 12 kids in the program. It's a 12-step program we did with the kids over there. Transitioned from the juvenile home and went to the Calhoun Community High School.
And I got a shout out for you because today's their graduation day.
Yeah, and I just found out about that, man, and I'm heartbroken that I couldn't make it. Yeah, man, it's the man. Listen, great bunch of staff over there, man. The kids were great.
Yeah.
Man, it was a great experience, man. It was a great experience, and so my hats off to again that staff over there, Mr. Allard, and all those folks over there. And so they did some work over there for about 2 years doing the cognitive behavior therapy class over there. Amongst other things, we like to do the social emotional learning, things like that. The main thing is trying to heal people from a place that they were broken in. I've had some adverse childhood experiences growing up, when I had to overcome a lot of obstacles in my life, find some resiliency in myself. And so, that's our biggest thing, is trying to be able to instill that, in young folk, in the community, in families. Right now we have a program going on, a mental health program. We're following the Maslow hierarchy ideology.
Yeah.
Understanding that, for someone to operate at their fullest potential, their basic needs has to be met, food, shelter, safety,
Yeah.
connection with other people, you know, um, you know, uh, all those things, make a person whole, and being able to operate, at their highest level. And if any of those things are not there, then, a person, tends to not, again, be able to, operate where their fullest capacity is at. And so we also are doing this COVID-19 pandemic. Um, there was an opportunity for us, a need that we seen in the community with being able to distribute healthy food. Ellie Johnson and Kyra Wallace from the Urban
Urban.
League.
Yeah.
Yep, Urban League. I'm trying to all these different names and
I
things. So
gotcha.
the Urban League. Also Sprout. Dane out there, Sprout, Jeremy.
Yeah.
They have been great. And so the relationship kind of started with Dana and Sprout giving LE and another organization some food boxes. They seen a need in the community and wanted to help. LE had contacted me, LE Johnson, he had contacted me and Rise organization, and asked if we know anybody. And so just kind of put it on my social media page, and there was a big response in regards to, again, the need, during the pandemic. And so that grew into a partnership with United Way. They have been great in regards to support, funding, being able to, again, purchase healthy food and distribute to the community. Also, hygiene packages,
Yeah.
um, household cleaning supplies. We also help with utility assistance, rental assistance, during this time. And so we've been doing it for about 11 weeks now, up at Washington Heights United Methodist Church, 153 North Wood Street.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and I have a bunch of great partners now, partnered up with Perry Farm. We're getting dairy product, things like that, be able to pass out. And so I don't want to, spend too much time on that. I know
No, but I appreciate it, man. I've been watching. I've been watching you and all the partnerships you've been filling, and all of the work that you've been doing. And and because I've had the opportunity to really sit down and talk to you before, I know this is personal for you. This comes from a real and today's subject, we wanted to talk. We always pick a theme to kind of draw inspiration from, and today's was oppression and how life circumstances, but also what is done to people. And your story is just so resonant, and the fact that it comes from experience. And you had this saying that I quote you all the time, whether you know it or not. Hurt people, heal people, heal people.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
talk about that a little bit, Damon.
Man, and I can't remember where I picked it up from, but when I heard it, man, it touched my spirit. Hurt people hurt people. Someone, and I can speak from personal experience. I grew up, again, with a lot of adverse childhood experiences, and I bottled a lot of hurt. I carried a lot of hurt with me. I didn't know how to express myself in the right way. I was immature in my emotions, and so, again, when you're hurt, people tend to want to hurt someone else. They tend to want to, make someone else feel their pain. Feel what they're going through. The old saying, misery loves company. Healed people heal people. Again, healed people. You have to be healed to be able to heal someone else, or at least help heal someone else. And so for me, and I'm still in a healing process. I think everyone is, it's a constant thing. And so, but I'm at a point now where I feel like that, I know better, so I have to do better. I have a responsibility to give back. And so, I am healed in certain aspects. And so, in those areas, I feel like that, I can be a asset, just to someone's life, in regards to, the knowledge, wisdom, understanding that I have from the things that I went through.
Right. Yeah. So we always try to draw a lot of this back to things that we've read, and you had some ideas to share. And why don't you go ahead? You had a Maya Angelou poem picked out, and I think I did too.
Yeah. So you want me to go first, Matt?
Yeah, you go first, man.
Okay. And so we talked about that. We talked about oppression. I think about oppression in my life as an African American man. From society standpoint.
Yeah.
And I think about our program, and our logo is the Phoenix. And for me, it's all about being able to rise out of the ashes, rise out of those circumstances.
Yeah.
And become something greater. Become your greater self. And I feel like that, I've done that in a lot of aspects of my life. I feel like that with our organization, we're helping young people, families, and individuals to, do that in themselves. And so when you asked me about some literature that that resonated with me, this is the first thing that popped up, because this is kind of like, what I want to call our mantra, if you will. And so it's a poem by Maya Angelou, Still I Rise. All pun intended.
Yeah.
And so it says, you may write me down in history with your bitter with your bitter, twisted lies. You may try me in the very dirt, but still like dust, I'll rise. Does my sassiness upset you? Why are you beset with gloom? Because I walk like I've got oil wells pumping in my living room. Just like moons and like suns with the certainty of tides. Just like hope springing high, still I rise. Did you want to see me broken? Bowed head and lowered eyes? Shoulders falling down like teardrops, weakened by my soulful cries. Does my hauntingness offend you? Do you take it awful hard? Because I laugh like I've got gold mines digging in my own backyard. You may shoot me with your words. You may cut me with your eyes. You may kill me with your hatefulness, but still like air I'll rise. Does my sexiness upset you? Does it come as a surprise that I dance like I've got diamonds at the meeting of my thighs? Out of the huts of history's shame, I rise. Up from a past that rooted in pain, I rise. I'm a black ocean, leaping and wide, welling and swelling, I bear in the tide. Leaving behind nights of terror and fear, I rise. Into a daybreak that's wondrously clear, I rise. Bringing the gifts that my ancestors gave. I am the dream and the hope of the slave. I rise, I rise, I rise.
That's powerful.
Yeah.
And it kind of speaks to something that you and I have talked about a lot. A lot of kids who are coming up hard, and you shared a lot of your life with me and the things that you had to endure. And what always strikes me is how much strength, that people get, that young people get, labeled, negatively with, but they're overcoming things that most people couldn't even dream living through, right?
Yeah.
and I hear you say that a lot. You know, I hear you tapping into that. Recognize how strong you really are. So that you think more of yourself. Am I summarizing you pretty well?
Oh no, you're hitting the nail on the head, Mac. And I had a conversation with someone the other day, and I remember interview that you and I did a while back,
Yeah.
at that building downtown, and I watched that interview, here and there, and there's something that we talked about in that interview where I said that a lot of people never ask why.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that, in the last few months with this pandemic, with the murder of George Floyd,
Yeah.
there's been an awakening. And within that awakening, I feel that, the covers has been ripped off of a lot of the disparities, these horrible things that's been going on for years. These systems, man.
Yeah.
That's been having their foot on certain groups of people's necks. For lack of a better term.
Yeah.
And I say that to say that we understand, man, that things have been systematically done. Neighborhoods have been designed to be a certain. There's been things that's been put in place, and then you have groups of people that have engaged in these things that's been put there for them, and you wonder why people act the way that they do. Why the behavior is the way that it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you shame them for it, or and so I try to understand that things have been things are the way that they are, again, certain things by design, but at the end of the day you do have a choice.
Yeah.
You don't have to stay stuck in it. Once you understand, I feel that we have an obligation to not engage in those poisons. Again, I went to prison for selling drugs. I was gang banging. I was doing all these things to tear up my community.
Yeah.
And so I was engaging in the things that was just perpetuating it.
Right.
End up going to prison. I was a statistic. And again, I didn't want to be a part of that system anymore. And so
But also, what you were doing was surviving, right? I mean,
absolutely.
you were using the tools that I mean, I've talked to you enough. I mean, you're pretty damn hard on yourself. I will say so. You're not looking for any grace in that sense.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
But you were doing what you needed to do, what you knew to do, and going where you had the support. And you've talked a lot about that. Again, you were going to school hungry. You were going to school not being able to you went from an A student, right?
Yeah, honor roll.
And nobody asked why.
Yeah. And again, it was the circumstances, again,
Yeah.
parent addicted to drugs, and not a close relationship with my father at the time, and just being around things, and it's so many kids, there's so many youth and people that have similar stories, and again, and it's just being able to find resilience in it, finding your why. I just talked with someone yesterday, and I told him, I say, my whole thing is I think about how I want to be remembered.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to be remembered as the person that I used to be, engaging in all those things, living that lifestyle. That's not how I want to be remembered. That's not how I want my kids to remember. That's not how I want my community, my family to remember me. And so in order for me to change that, I had to change. I had to start doing things differently, You can't call an apple tree if it's not producing apples. You got to produce some apples, man. And if you're not producing apples, no, you're not an apple tree. And so yeah, man. That was my thing, and again, just recognizing it, and wanting to give back, and help someone else that was in the same situation that I was in.
Yeah. So I told you when I go into these things, I usually bring like 7 or 8 things to read and maybe get to one of them. But there has been a huge increase in circulation of contemporary texts for people who want to understand more about the dynamics of racism, the pathology of, I call it a pathology, but just the ocean we swim in, to quote one of our friends here who's watching it. It's all around us, and there's new stuff. But something that I'm ashamed to admit that I haven't read a lot of, but James Baldwin. And a few weeks ago, I watched the documentary "I'm Not Your Negro," and it inspired me to pick up. And I just want to read a little bit from the essay in the book, "The Fire Next Time," and it's the shorter essay. It's called. I'll read the title so I don't get it wrong.
Okay.
My Dungeon Shook, Letter to My Nephew on the 100th Anniversary of the Emancipation.
Yeah, I read it.
Yeah. And I don't know that we'll have time, but it's an interesting comparison to read Ta-Nehisi Coates' letter to his son, Between the World and Me, which was published a few years ago, I think. But I thought it was, what's so fascinating about these books, decades apart, is how persistent the theme is. And what you talked about before, about this sort of awakening that is going on across the country, it's pretty extraordinary. And yet there's been an awakening before. And so I think it's really good to go back to these great thinkers and these great writers, Maya Angelou, Audre Lorde, James Baldwin, Ta-Nehisi Coates, and really open your mind and open your heart. And so I'm just going to read a few pages of this essay. And again, he's writing, James Baldwin is writing to his nephew, who is named for him, James. Talks a lot about the younger James's father, James Baldwin's brother, and what life under the oppression that they've lived under has done to them. And so I just want to share this. Please try to remember what they believe, as well as what they do and cause you to endure, does not testify to your inferiority, but to their inhumanity and fear. Please try to be clear, dear James, through the storm which rages about your youthful head today, about the reality which lies behind the words acceptance and integration. There is no reason for you to try to become like white people, and there's no basis whatever for their impertinent assumption that they must accept you. The really terrible thing, old buddy, is that you must accept them. And I mean that very seriously. You must accept them, and accept them with love. For these innocent people have no other hope. They are, in effect, still trapped in a history which they do not understand. And until they understand it, they cannot be released from it. They have had to believe for many years and for innumerable reasons that black men are inferior to white men. Many of them indeed know better, but as you will discover, people find it very difficult to act on what they know. To act is to be committed, and to be committed is to be in danger. In this case, the danger in the minds of most white Americans is the loss of their identity. Try to imagine how you would feel if you woke up one morning to find the sun shining and all the stars aflame. You would be frightened because it is out of the order of nature. Any upheaval in the universe is terrifying because it so profoundly attacks one's sense of one's own reality. Well, the black man has functioned in the white man's world as a fixed star, as an immovable pillar. And as he moves out of his place, heaven and earth are shaken to their foundations. You, don't be afraid. I said that it was intended that you should perish in the ghetto, perish by never being allowed to go behind the white man's definitions, by never being allowed to spell your proper name. You have, and many of us have, defeated this intention, and by a terrible law, a terrible paradox, those innocents who believe that your imprisonment made them safe are losing their grasp of reality. But these men are your brothers, your lost younger brothers. And if the world integration means anything, this is what it means: that we, with love, shall force our brothers to see themselves as they are, to cease fleeing from reality and begin to change it. For this is your home, my friend. Do not be driven from it. Great men have done great things here and will again, and we can make America what America must become. It will be hard, James, but you come from sturdy peasant stock, men who picked cotton and dammed rivers and built railroads, and in the teeth of the most terrifying odds, achieved an unassailable and monumental dignity. You come from a long line of great poets, some of them the greatest poets since Homer. One of them said, "The very time I thought I was lost, my dungeon shook and my chains fell off." And it just strikes me on so many levels, because part of what he's talking about here, at least in my interpretation and far later in history, is kind of what you and I were talking about this the other day. Like nothing that has occurred, whether you want to look at the inequitable health outcomes of a pandemic and how that has hit Black people, but people of color in general, LGBTQ people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, poor people, has hit them so much harder. Well, we've been living in that, swimming in that ocean for a long time. This is not new.
No, it's not.
And just like it's not new, that somebody can lose their life for allegedly passing a $20 counterfeit bill, or or not passing a sobriety test. I mean, these things have been happening all around us, but somehow there is I don't know if it's the psychology of living in the pandemic. You and I talked about the calmness with which George Floyd's killers ended his life. It was almost like a non-event to them. All that stuff has combined to really shock people to a new level of consciousness. And I see a real opportunity to engage, to better understand how systematic oppression and inequity in life has profound health impacts, has profound educational impacts, has profound impacts on criminal activity, all of it, right? We can be better together.
Yeah. You're exactly right. And that, that's what I took from that piece of literature as well. And that's why I love having conversations with you and Miss Kathy Wilson. I seen she was in here. That we're able to have these candid conversations, and really, really speak from the heart and not be scared of the truth. And at the end of the day, like, we have to understand these systems have been built with a certain ideology in mind, and it's not going to happen overnight. It's going to be painful. There's going to be resistance. Change is, but it's just the right thing to do. And there's a lot of things happening around the country and around the world right now that I love to see. A lot of togetherness. A lot of powerful people are speaking up against things now. A lot of different organizations and companies and things like that are changing policies and different things to I guess right some wrongs, if you will. And again, it's a long road. Again, it's not going to happen overnight. I'm just glad to be a part of the change and to see it. You know, because we have kids, we have grandkids. You know, what is this world going to look like for them?
Yeah.
You know, again, I challenge everyone, you know, and even myself first, but I challenge everyone that's even listening, you know, what do you want your legacy to be? How do you want to be remembered? You know, we're all here, you know, now, you know, and we have the opportunity to do things, you know, we can tomorrow, you know, you can do something different. You know, tomorrow you can do something, you know, make a change in someone's life that, you know, then that person's going to touch someone and that person. And so, you know, it's a chain reaction, you know, the ripple effect. And so again, you know, I wake up with that on my mind every day. You know, how do I want to be remembered? You know, if this is my last day, you know, how am I going to remember today? You know, so.
Well, I can tell you just from some of the comments that we're getting on our feed that a lot of people remember you very well already. But I appreciate it. There is one other thing that I want to read.
Absolutely.
And we're running over a little bit, but we got started late.
You did say this was going to be so fast. I feel like I've been rambling. I haven't been able to kind of, you know, expound the way that I would like to, man. And things kind of been bunched up, but it's been great, man. It's been a great experience. So yeah, we can stay on a little bit longer.
Yeah, we can stay a little longer, and I'll have you back, man.
Yeah, definitely.
But you know, this is something else that's in our collection at the library, which is be opening again real soon. And you can put books on hold too. But educator Bettina Love, are you familiar with her, Damon?
I'm not. No.
She wrote a book here a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago. Now I'm not sure. It's called "We Want to Do More Than Survive." And what I really love about it, and for me, it helps to make approaching the subject of racism or oppression a little more accessible for people who don't like to see the worst in themselves.
Mm-hmm.
I think that can be the hardest thing, especially people of more liberal sensibilities who see themselves as being part of the solution, not part of the problem. And then you wake up one day, it's like, oh, maybe I am part of the problem, right?
Yeah.
Because we only know what we know, right? We only know what we grow up, you know, how we grew up and how we lived. And so just this one paragraph, and Bettina, the book's subtitle is Abolitionist Teaching, and it's really about how educators really need to be successful in helping young people rise above the circumstances that they're in. They really have to understand where they're coming from, and they have to understand the importance of building a home place in their school systems. And actually, I remember when I read this book, I thought, boy, too bad Joe Biden didn't read this book, because he could have come up with a much better answer for why he opposed busing when he did, because she makes a very eloquent argument about how desegregation actually robbed people of color, children, you know, black kids, of schools in which they felt safe. You know, they went from a system where maybe not equal in a lot of ways, but it was theirs. And she talks a lot about that at great length. So I recommend the book. And mine's all scribbled all over. But just this one graph. The great Audre Lorde said, "The true focus of revolutionary change is never merely the oppressive situations which we seek to escape, but that piece of the oppressor which is planted deep within each of us." Abolitionist teaching asks us to question the piece of the oppressor that lives in all of us. As educators, we need to think of accountability beyond testing and academic achievement and in terms of human suffering. How do we hold teachers accountable for injustices in their classrooms that they themselves have caused? How do we hold men accountable for restoring justice due to the harm of patriarchy? How do we hold a country accountable for restoring justice after putting children in cages and causing irreversible levels of toxic stress? Abolitionist teachers have to hold themselves and their colleagues to a level of accountability that focuses on justice, love, healing, and restoring humanity. Educators, and especially those with privilege, must be responsible for making sure dark children and their families win. And, you know, and as we've talked about this, you know, one of the things you know, the phrase that's out there a lot is defund the police department. And I think it's just so much bigger than that. I'm not saying that police agencies, police departments can't improve and get better, and there's certainly a lot of bad apples, but they are not formed in a vacuum. They are formed as a part of a whole, and they reflect policy decisions made at the local level, at the state level, at the federal level. And you know, so if we're going to talk about defunding police, let's talk about funding a lot of things that we want to do differently, and that includes our schools, where the root of all this is.
Yeah, I think you're right. In that aspect, it is many layers. It is many layers. And again, it's a part of a bigger system, you know, that needs to be looked at. And I believe, you know, that's what that piece was addressing, you know, that. So my biggest thing now is that understanding the power of voting, and you know, we've talked about this for so many years. We have to get out and vote for the ones that make the laws, you know, and you know, these policy changers and things like that. You know, we think about the president of the United States. You know, he signs off on things.
Yeah,
you know, things come to him. You know, so understanding how that system works, you know, saying where we need to be voting at, I think is very, very important. And you know, again, you know, being able to get together and understand who we're voting for and what we're voting for. And, you know, I think that, you know, when individuals start to see the togetherness, that, you know, they start to, you know, campaign for the people, you know, and so I think, you know, that's where a lot of it is I feel our focus needs to be at, you know, is in those polls.
Yeah. All right. Well, Damon, it was great having you on this evening.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm mad that is you know, so short, man. You gotta have an hour, Matt.
You know, we might have to do that sometime.
Yeah, definitely. So, man, please have you back on, man. You know, I think this is great, a great platform. And yeah, man. You know, you have some real conversations, and I enjoy that.
I appreciate you coming on, and I always enjoy talking to you. And we got one more heart for you from Susan Clark.
Hey, Susan, how you doing? Yep. And just thank you to everyone out there, and everyone that's been supporting Rise. Seeing Jim Hasm on there. You know, just everyone that's been a supporter Rise. You know, just to the Rise team.
Yeah.
You know, we've been doing a great job up here at Washington Heights. You know, with the community, and you know, we're at about 200 families a week now. And just again, being able to give out healthy stuff, you know, it's good things to the community has felt pretty good. And so, again, thank you for all the support from the community.
Yeah, and it feels really good to see you elevate that community. Very prominent, proud community. So.
Absolutely, I'm born and raised here, and so you know, it's a responsibility as far as I'm concerned. So, again, thank you again, Matt.
Hey, thank you. You take care. And we're going to sign off. We'll be back next week, everybody. And so come on back.
Absolutely. God bless.